Alright, this video tonight is going to serve two purposes. It's going to be my next installment of a fly a day while my wife's away. It's also going to double as my nephew Andy's birthday fly. So Andy, I'm going to tie a fly that is something that you could tie at home with whatever materials you could find at the house, but based on the conversation that I had with your mom, or that we had with your mom, about things you like to do at the house, i.e. shooting squirrels and things, this is a fly that you could use, or you could make out of things you might acquire having hunted a squirrel, or just looking around the waters near your house, or things like that. So first of all, you don't have to have a vise. If you can find a hook, this is just a regular bait holder hook. You could probably find one in your dad's tackle box, or you could get the package of eagle claw hooks for $2.96 or whatever it is at Walmart. You can get an X-Acto knife like this, which you can use either as a blade to cut your string, or you can take this blade out and use that and you can put your hook in that instead of a blade, and then you can drill a hole in a piece of wood that's this size and put it down in there to hold it so you can tie with it. Another option would be to, let me get this tight so the blade doesn't fall out on me. Another option would be to use a pair of needle nose pliers. You could grab the hook with the needle nose pliers, and then once you get the hook in there, you could put this in your dad's vise and it would hold it for you, so you could tie out in the garage, or wherever your dad's vise is. So now moving on to other materials. So this fly is going to use a squirrel tail. This is a red squirrel tail. You probably have gray squirrels out there. If you kill a squirrel, you can cut the tail off and you can put this in just a bag of salt and it'll dry up, and then you can keep this. Also, if you wanted to cape it out, you could cut down the line, down the bone, and cape it out, and then you could put borax on there and just keep adding borax until it dries up. If you should happen to shoot a rabbit, you could do the same thing. This is a rabbit mask. This is half of one because a dog got a hold of it, and now it is less than it used to be. But nonetheless, you can, if you kill a rabbit to eat, you can save the skin. You can put borax on it or whatever. You can salt it or however you want to figure out how to do that. And you can use this hair, this mask, you can pull off hair, little bits like this, and you can use that for dubbing on your string, and you can make little bug flies with it. So that's that for the fur. Also, if you have a piece of a deer tail, if your dad gets a deer, you get a deer and you save the hide. I kept the hide on this one, and so I use these white ones to make streamers. You can also use these for different things, the brown ones, and then the body hair also. There's a lot of cool flies you can make with that. And then for this one, two more materials. I salvaged a bunch of old Christmas lights. I took the wire and cut off the light part and saved the wire of it. So now I've got all kinds, tons and tons of copper wire. So I separate that into individual strands, which I use on my flies to give it some sparkle and also to make it a stronger fly. I'm not going to use this today, but this is something I found at Home Depot. If you go to Home Depot and you find where they have the smaller pieces of wood, sometimes they're tied together with this cordage. And as you can see in this cordage, it's made up of strands of what looks like sparkly, kind of shiny yarn. You can use that for flies. But I want to get back to the other materials here. that I'm going to use today. So the other thing is Beadchain. This stuff that goes like on your ceiling fan or whatnot. If you take that and use your needle nose pliers with a cutting edge, or use side cutters, you can cut off 2 beads like that. You can use it for eyes, and that's what I'm going to use today. The only thing that you'd have to get specialized would be the actual thread. So you can get that. I mean, because you can tie them with regular sewing thread, but it's kind of difficult. It doesn't hold very well. It's not very strong, but it can be done. But this stuff you can get at Bass Pro. You can get it on Amazon for pretty cheap. You can get all this stuff for Amazon pretty cheap if you wanted to get a vise and tie flies. I only say this because I know I didn't like fishing when I was young because it was boring. But if I had a better, I guess a better opportunity to fly fish, or to even just the fly tying part of it, it would have been, I think I would have really enjoyed it. I'm not sure, but I know I definitely got into it when I was an adult, and I love it. So just thought if you ever wanted to try this. So you could do this even if you don't have a fly rod. You can tie these, and you can fish with a bobber with one of these. You can fish with like lead weight on the line to help it sink better, because this is not very heavy unless you have lead on it, and lead wire is not pretty common. But you could wrap the hook with copper, enough copper, and it would make it heavier. It's just whatever floats your boat. But what I want to do today is a little streamer. I could do the bucktail as the streamer tail, but I think I want to use squirrel, because I know that your mom said you've hunted squirrels and y'all have cooked them. So I'm going to get some squirrel tail. Now your squirrel tail probably won't be striped like this with the black and white. It would probably be more of a solid color, but it's still fine. So I'm just going to take, so basically what I did is I started my thread and just wrapped it up on the hook until the bend of the hook, and now I'm going to go in and tie this in. You can use regular scissors. They don't have to be anything special. There are scissors for fly tying. I just got mine at Joann's or Walmart or something in the sewing section. So you just lift up the materials like that and just take some off, these loose ones, smaller bits, just get them out of there. And you want them to kind of be about the same length. Like that. And I'm just going to tie this in. I want to make this about the length of the hook after. And the way that I do this, see, I'm holding this above the hook. I'm going to put the string between my thumb and my forefinger, and then I'm going to pull down, and then it falls down to the hook. And then I just, as I'm turning, I want to keep this up on top. And I'm also keeping this fur the length of the body. I'm going to cut this off here behind the head right there, but otherwise I'm keeping it so that I build up this body some more, so that if I use dubbing, I don't have to build it up so much. Cut into it like that, and notice I cut it at an angle that'll give me a good taper towards the head of the hook, the eye. So as I come in and build up, you see that it tapers down. It's not a blunt cut off. Another thing you can use is some kind of yarn. And I'm going to get, I'm just going to use this one, I think. So there's a couple of ways you can do this. This is just some yarn that I got for needlepoint. You can use regular yarn that you would use for a sweater. There's all kinds of stuff out there. Anything that you see that looks like it could be good for a fly, you can get and use it. So I can take this, I can either tie this on and wrap it around up to the front and be done with it. Oh, that reminds me, I need to tie in the copper. Or I can strip off some of the material, like rip it out of the yarn and have it be just a bunch of fluff that I then dub onto the thread. What I did here, this is just a piece of the copper. I just laid it down on top of the hook and then wrapped my thread over it to hold it down. So here's an example of some pieces of yarn that I've acquired. This is just really just a big gob of it. But you can take yarn, like this is a yarn that has multiple colors to it as you go down. But I could take this piece right here, and off the end I can just start ripping this out. And this is a brown color, so it's good for the fly that I'm using, or that I'm building. So see, I've got this, now I've got this wad of yarn, and I'm going to just fluff it a little bit. I think I'll go ahead and use this. So just make it fluffy. Now, this is bowstring wax. I don't know if your dad has any of this with his bow, or if you have a bow. This is something that when your bowstring starts to get a little bit frayed, you can put this on there and make it lay down and stick back together. Because bowstring is just several strings wrapped and then coated with wax to make it stick together. If you don't have that, you can also use the wax that you get to go with braces, that you can put on your braces to protect your gums, or not your gums, but your inside of your cheeks from your brackets, cutting them. If you get a raw spot on your cheeks, you can put that stuff on there. It's kind of sticky. You can use that on here too. So what I've done is I've just taken that where I webbed it out and I've twisted it onto my thread. And now I'm going to wrap this forward. I just want to get it started right here where this tail is tied in. A little bit more, and then I'll come forward. And all I'm doing is just wrapping it so that it's touching and so that it looks kind of fat. I want it to look like something that a fish wants to eat. Just keep wrapping forward. And I'm getting towards the front and I'm kind of running out. So I'll take a little bit more. I'll show you this again. So this thread is actually really good for this. This yarn is really good for this. Seam yarn is not as good. I'm just going to take this and just pull some. Just keep pulling on the end pretty firmly until I get a little bit, and then I take that and just fluff it up. And it really, I mean, I had a lot on here because I was doing the whole body, but something like this doesn't take a lot to finish up. See, I just did that, and that makes the body. Next thing I want to do, usually I do this earlier. Usually I do it before I tie anything else in. My bead chain eyes. So I'm going to put these eyes on, and all you do here, you just lay that little wire in the middle across the back of your hook. So I'm going to do this so you can see it without getting in the way. Yeah, so all I did was just wrap it. I put it on top of the hook. And I'm just going several turns between the balls and over the wire of the hook. And I'm going to cross it on top because right now they're sitting kind of crooked. Just want to make those so they lay down straight, even with, or perpendicular to the hook like they're supposed to be. This wire is getting in my way over here. So rotations that I'm making here are either at a diagonal across, so it goes under the hook at an angle the other way, or I'll go over the top and under the eye and back over the top and under the other eye, or under the eye, across and under. It just depends on what I'm feeling or what I see that I need to fill in the top. And sometimes I'll come in and just wrap right around one side, so it gives it kind of an eye socket. And I'll go to the other side. Just a few turns. Okay. I'll come in back behind my head again. So let me loosen this and I'll show you what we got here. Like that. You see how that eye moves back and forth. And notice I've got, it looks kind of like a sausage here or something. I can pull this back some and just fluff it back. Fluff this forward. And I'm about to wrap this wire around it. So I wrapped this, I started here, I'm wrapping towards me from the bottom and over the top away from me. So if I'm doing that, whenever I use my wire, I want to go opposite of that and cross the thread. So I'm going to go here, and I'm just going to wrap this against the way that I wrapped earlier. You can see the copper starting to come through that thread. Now this thread, this yarn, kind of has a shimmer to it anyway, so it doesn't stand out as big. If you did this against like black yarn, something like that, it would really stand out. Okay. So I came in with that last turn, I came around and went under the eye, so it would hold it kind of for me, and then I started wrapping across it, because the way that you wrap this way, sometimes it's harder to tie off, but I'm good here. So I'll just make several turns behind the head, a couple of cross turns, like that. And then with copper wire, it's thin enough, you can just hold it and twist, not twist, but helicopter it, and it'll break off. You don't have to cut it. If you cut it, it'll dull your scissors after a while. So now I'm done with that. Now all I got to do here, I'm going to put my finger, I'm going to wrap the thread around my finger. Let's see, that's going to be hard to see for you there. Do it this way. I'll do it with this finger. I'm going to wrap around my finger, and then I'm going to put my finger on the nose and the eyes and let that thread slip off behind the eyes. It's called a half hitch. Okay, so that's one. And then here's the next thing. I'm going to have my finger above the fly. I'm going to go over my finger, under the fly again, over my finger again next to the other one, and then just let that hang. And at that point I'm done with the thread bobbin. Now I'm going to go under this first thread, grab the second one, pull it through. Oop, I'll let it go. Sorry, I wrapped those the wrong way when I told you. You wrap the first time. The second time you go behind the other one. That's what happened. Okay, and then you go through this first one. You lift it up and you grab the second one and you pull it through. Put it back where it was. And you go again through the first one, grab the second one, pull it through. Now you hold the second one. The first one you can use your scissors or something pointed or your fingers, and you can just take that off, and then you just let it go in the place where you want it. It wasn't the best tie off in the world. I'll do it one more time so you can see it. Let me back this out. I'll go over my finger, under the fly, over my finger again next to the other one. I'm going to reach through the first one, grab the second one and pull it through, and then put it back where it was. Go through the first one, grab the second one again, pull it through, and hold it. I'm going to take this one off of my finger with some object that will help me. Now I've got it. I'm going to slide it right to the place where I want it to be, and then slide out, and then let it fall where it's supposed to fall. And now I've got a knot right there. After I got that tied off, I snipped that, tag in. I got some loose stuff here that I want to clip off, just to clean it up. I get clear nail polish, any clear nail polish. I mean, some stuff can be kind of goopy, but this is pretty thin stuff. Just go right between the eyeballs here where the thread is, and just get a coating of that. Sometimes I'll put some on the eyes. So these holes that are on the side, they can get water in them, but also the wire that you cut, when you cut those off, can stick out and it can actually cut your thread when you're tying. So I just do that. That puts a coat of paint on the thread that you tied. It puts paint over the holes so that wire doesn't stick out. And then I can take my squirrel tail and I can just kind of try to fluff it out some. Just so it has a little bit more action. If I have feathers, if you have a feather, you can tie it in where you tie the wire, and you can wrap it around and make it have some body there, or just tie it right behind the eyes. I opted not to do that on this one because I didn't know what you had access to as far as feathers goes. But I know you can find thread, I know you can find copper wire, I know you can find bead chains, you could probably find a squirrel tail somewhere, roadkill, whatever, and you can find a hook. So should you want to tie a fly, that might be a good opportunity to try. So this is my next episode of a fly a day while my wife's away. Got about 2 more days of that before I am done with this series. But this also serves as Andrew Tucker's squirrel tail bugger. Hope you enjoyed it. Andy, I know your birthday was a while back, but happy birthday. And sorry I didn't get it out sooner. But hope you enjoy it. Hope you try it out. If you do, let me know. One more thing that I didn't do with this dubbing. I can find my... So I've got a beard. This has Velcro on it. That's why it's doing that. I have a beard brush that I put Velcro on the handle. And I use the brush to brush fur. And if we have dubbing like this, I'll take my Velcro, and I'll just scrape it along there. Anytime you have a fly that's fuzzy like this, and you can make it fuzzier, all that does is when you throw it in, it grabs air, and you get little air bubbles in there. And whenever you have that it makes it look more alive, like it's reserving air. So if you just scrape this dubbing, scrape the dubbing with the Velcro, it's not going to do much for your squirrel tail, as you can see. You might be able to chunk it up and make it really fluffy looking, but just get a little bit more life in your dubbing. And then if you think you've done too much, you can just come back and trim it down to within your specifications. So, Angie's squirrel tail bugger, or booger. Some people call it a booger, woolly booger. Hope you enjoyed it. Give it a try. If you do, take a picture of it and send it to me. I'd be interested to know if you liked it, if you tried it. All right. Thank you.